Okay, welcome. Well, in non-public, we discussed personnel issues, security issues, and I believe that is it, right? All right. We did not complete our reorganization. One thing that we need to do, that we like to do, is we'd like to have a board member read our code of ethics.
Yep.
And I would like to do that.
Okay, so it's policy BCA. It's a code of ethics for school board members. As a member of the Strafford School Board, I will adhere to the following. I will make decisions in support of the educational welfare of our children and will adhere to all board policies. I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are run to the best of their ability. I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools, which if disclosed would needlessly injure individuals or the school. I will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendations of the superintendent and principal. I will excuse myself from any discussion and vote that involves personal financial interests. I will excuse myself from any discussion and vote that involves personal contracts with family members. I will not knowingly place myself in the direct conflict of interest situations. I will recognize that individual board members are without authority to act relative to school district business, and that I will not individually commit the board to any action except as specifically designated to do so by board action. I will take no private action that will compromise the board or administration and respect the confidentiality of information that is privileged under applicable law or is received in confidence or executive session. And that is our that's our code of ethics that we sign annually.
Thank you very much, Eric. Okay, so we're going to pass the sheet around, agreeing to adhere to the code of ethics. Today's 26. All right, great. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next, we have agenda review and public comments. I don't see anyone here. We'll keep public comments open until 7:36. And do we have anything we want to change with the agenda? Anything we need to add, change?
I've got a couple of things I'm gonna bring up under other.
Okay. Alrighty. And now we have a presentation. So we have Michael from Second Wind.
Hello.
Here. Hello.
Thank you for taking some time to meet with me. I have a lot of information. I feel like a small piece of it is really pertinent for today, but all of it is important for long-term context. So we've been working with the school for quite a while. We were having some challenges specifically with the softener. What the softener does is it takes hardness, which turns into sort of a white scaling on heating elements and any place the water gets hot, but it also takes out iron, which stains sort of reddish brown, and manganese, which stains sort of black. You guys have hardness and you also have some iron. So it was taking those things out. If you don't take those things out, you start to notice them in distribution. That was starting to happen. I think due to some procedural changes that I think were probably the result of some folks in-house that were taking care of tasks, and perhaps that's being done better. It seems like the softener is actually doing its job right now, which I'm a little surprised by because the math on the paper says that it necessarily shouldn't be, but it does seem to be. So in my opinion, that is a break fix, but keep in mind we might get to a point because that system was designed for a water quality that was better than what you have now. Your water quality is just diminished. It just happens over time. It can get better, it can get worse, usually gets worse. And the usage has increased since that system was designed. So we've got a system that's undersized both based on how much water it treats and how much stuff is in the water. But for right now, that seems to be great. When I tested it on site 3 weeks ago, it was like a brand new system. So I'm super happy with that. The main thing that we're dealing with now is you have a system to adjust how corrosive your water is. So the corrosivity is generally a result of the pH. 7 is neutral, below 7 is acidic, above 7 is alkaline. Your water's a little acidic. And so right now we're using calcite in a tank. The water goes through this, it dissolves marble chips essentially, and it takes that into distribution. And what that does is it raises the pH a little. It also coats the inside of the pipes so the water doesn't have an opportunity to dissolve, say, lead from any place that there's an old sweat joint that's from lead solder or brass that's more than a few years old, because even brand new brass that calls itself lead free is 0.25% lead. You go 5-10 years back, it starts to turn into whole numbers of percentage of lead in lead free brass. So if the water sits in that little shut off valve for a little while and it's even slightly corrosive, you can pull enough lead out where you can start to have problems with lead failures on tests, forget the lead out, or just for standard public water supply stuff. So what we're looking at is replacing that system with a system that will, instead of using calcium, will use baking soda. And it actually has what we call a day tank, which is sort of a tank, a garbage can with a lid and a motor and a little agitator. And it gets topped up periodically, probably about once a month by the maintenance folks. They'll add a scoop for every gallon of water they add. The agitator will be on a timer. It'll come on twice a day to mix it up to make sure that nothing falls out. And it'll have an injection point where it'll inject that into the plumbing before it goes into the rest of the school. And what that will do is raise that pH and make the water not corrosive, but it won't give you the calcium deposits that you're going to get downstream, because your water already has some calcium in it. And so we're starting to see in the kitchen especially, but you're probably seeing in water heaters and any place that there's a heat exchange, any place the water's getting heated, that calcium's going to come out and it's going to shorten the life of whatever it is that it's coming out of. This is just a better technology from our experience.
Can I just interrupt just for a sec? So
Yeah.
the kitchen is big, right? We just lost a machine. We don't want to lose another machine. Our hot water heater's been failing every 2 years. This is most likely one of the causes of that. And then the third thing that we worry about is the washing machine, which is only a little over a year old, was so garbaged up that they had to strip the whole thing apart and clean it out and to make it work again. So only a 1-year-old washing machine, because you're putting hot water into it, was causing a problem. So once again, all these different places that we have that has been depositing, and we know it is, the kitchen is already worried about the deposits that are forming on the dishwasher in there. So I just wanted to make sure you understood it's very real that we're seeing it all the time. So
And I actually went to the kitchen and scraped a pot with a plastic utensil and took that scraping to the lab to confirm that it was what I thought it was. And indeed, it's hardness coming from the water. So you have some coming from your raw water, which your softener, when it's working, pulls out. But you've got some that you're contributing with this neutralizer, which adds calcium to the water to solve one problem, but it kind of exacerbates another problem at the same time. So now it seems like, yes,
When you scraped it off, was it calcium? Is that what it was? Was it calcium?
mostly, and manganese,
So we do have manganese too.
which is, magnesium, which is the other component of hardness. It's,
Okay.
you don't see as much of it. It's mostly hardness is calcium,
Okay.
but that's what it was.
yeah, not manganese,
So-
magnesium.
So if we're kind of dealing with twofold problem, we have it in the raw water, the softener's pulling it out, which it's doing now. We were introducing it to solve the corrosivity problem.
Mhm.
If we reduce that, we've now gotten rid of both of the things that are contributing hardness to your water supply, which means your infrastructure is going to last longer and you're going to have less cost demands on you from anything pretty much that heats water. It's kind of counterintuitive. You think of like, oh, you heat your tea up and the sugar dissolves better, right? Calcium's the opposite. The water gets hotter, it comes out of solution. The quicker you heat the water, like an on-demand water heater, it comes right out.
So is that coating that's on like the water fountains, is that the calcium prop that you see out there? It's like a whitish tan.
I'll tell you how you can figure out for sure if you want to play Columbo. Take a little bit of it, put it in some kind of like a petri dish or a glass, add a little vinegar, just plain old vinegar, and it will fizz. If it's calcium, it will fizz. If it's not, it won't. That's sort of our simple field test, but I would bet it is based on the water quality.
I have a question. Why then did we choose to add the calcium and not do the baking soda originally?
It's a good question. I've only been with the company for 3 years. I don't think we installed that technology originally. I think the pump technology gotten better in the last decade
Mhm.
is a piece of it. Old pumps used to be kind of like what you think of a pump. You think of like a ch-chook, 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 right? Which is like a diaphragm that gets pulled back by a mechanism. And when it releases, it pushes a little bit of liquid. That's how the old pumps were. They could lose their prime. They were very unpredictable. These new pumps are a rotary pump. They're peristaltic pump. I don't know what the science behind them, but they don't lose a prime. They have minimal moving parts. They only need to be serviced once a year. They just do their job. You just set it and forget it, and you can dial them right in, and they're quiet. So I think the fact that the pump tech has gotten better in 10 years has made injecting versus passively dissolving a little bit more of an attractive technology.
Will the baking soda change the flavor of the water? Will it be salty like or?
I don't think so.
No.
You might have a little bit of flavor from the hardness, but I don't think so. I can't promise that. But it certainly won't taste bad. It will just be a little bit different, perhaps. But it's such a small amount. It's less than a part per million.
Would our like particulate filters in the water fountain take that baking soda out?
It's dissolved. It's not a suspended particle. It's actually dissolved.
Because it's dissolved in the water, it doesn't come out through those filters.
Correct. It's
Okay.
actually like a salt. So it actually dissociates into a positive ion and a negative ion in the water. It's not a solid particle anymore.
Okay. Do what we have and then what you're proposing with this new style neutralizer, do they have any effect on our leach field, on our septic tank health? They don't?
Generally, those are pretty pH tolerant, and we're really just shifting the pH a little bit. I mean, we're shifting the pH to a range where most people's septic tanks are. So really the biota that's in there is fully capable of dealing with that little bit of a change. And as I said, it's less than a part per million. It's such an insignificant piece. This is something that we've been doing successfully for decades, really. This is not novel technology. It's just a little bit ahead of what you guys have. So, and sometimes calcium's a better solution for a problem. Just in the situation, it doesn't seem like it is.
Can you speak to the cartridge filters too? I know that's another component after the neutralizer in the whole series of everything.
Sure.
And
So
whether or not that is needed in the future or not.
because the calcium is what we call sacrificial, it dissolves as the water goes through it. We load it up with a certain amount of media once or twice a year, and as the water goes through this tank, it dissolves a little bit. Eventually, those particles get small enough that they can get swept up and they can bypass the mechanical filtration built into the tank. We want to catch them someplace so they don't end up in the aerators of your faucet. So that's why we have the cartridge filters after. Wouldn't need that with a chemical
I just know
filtration,
that's another.
with a chemical feed
That's
system.
kind of
So
beyond its useful life.
could save you a couple $100 a year in cartridge filters, and if you're PMing them once a year and it's 15 minutes a piece, you're looking at a few hours. So it's not thousands of dollars, but it's not insignificant at the same time.
Our backwash filter, is that one of those units that goes and back flushes the water softeners nightly or?
So it's separate from the softener. It precedes the softener, and there's two kinds of iron. There's the kind that's a particle rust, and there's the kind that's dissolved and it's invisible. That backwashing filter catches the particle iron as it comes into the building. Some of it comes in as particle and some of it comes in as dissolved. That catches the particle, and every couple of days it runs the water backwards. It raises that media up. It loosens anything caught between the particles of media, sends it to drain, puts itself back online in the middle of the night, ready to rock and roll. And then the softener takes out the portion of the iron that's dissolved versus particulate. So there's sort of a 1-2 punch. If you have high iron of both kinds and it varies, you really kind of need both of those back to back.
Yeah, is it a potassium permanganate type or is that a different type?
No, we're not generally big fans of that. It's
Okay, well,
toxic.
I had one water system in one house and it was for iron manganese and I had calcium carbonate and then potassium.
So you can use bleach to the same end
Yeah.
as an oxidant.
Okay.
But in this situation, when we inherited the system, it was configured to pull what was already solid out through a mechanical filter and what was dissolved out through an ion exchange media. And that's the system that you guys have now. And it seems to be working as long as the salt is kept out. I would say in the next 5 years, you're probably going to have to look at a new softener. You do have the number for that.
Yeah.
The other pieces of the system, and I think at some point, Robert and I discussed as much of the system as I could assess.
I put some dates on the form that I gave to you guys.
We just do water treatment, but I, as sort of the guardians of your system, I tried to gather as much data as I could to look at your bladder tank and your float valves and anything else that might be reaching obsolescence. So you have those numbers as well. It seems like the PFAS media is doing its job well, but we've also discussed what we can do if and when we come to the point where it's time to replace that.
And that we hadn't been doing a test that we need to do. So the PFAS, I was able to get hold of that company, and then you guys agreed with that assessment. We need to pull a sample from between the two sets. So there's 4 tanks, they're in pairs. Right now, we are testing after it's gone through all 4 of the tanks. The problem with that is if we start to see PFAS there, we're in trouble.
Right.
We need to be testing between the two, so we can see if it's starting to get through the first ones, and when it does, then you take those out, you move the other 2 into the first spot, you rebed those, you put them into the second spot, and you then keep testing. So we're gonna add that to it as an annual test to check between the tanks to make sure there's no PFAS, and if there ever is, then I'm gonna come to you and say, okay. When I talked to that other company, they said it's almost impossible to predict. They said until you had it at least happen once. They said because what's coming out of the ground is really hard. It alters, it changes, it fluctuates. And so they said, you really are just gonna have to wait until the first set fails. And then you can mark that as kind of your time frame moving forward. So right now it could be a year, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. We just don't know. But these guys can do it. We don't have to go back to that other company.
And the good news is when you use carbon to pull PFAS out,
right, we talked about that
the
too.
media manufacturers won't give you what we call a projection, which is I give them water quality and they say you'll get this much volume of water through this media before it's at exhaustion. Carbon just won't do that. We don't use carbon for PFAS absorption. We actually use an engineered media. I can give you a projection.
Which
I
would
can
be
take your
great.
water quality, I can send it to them, and they can say you're going to get 17 million gallons through this tank before they reach exhaustion. And we can actually help you budget the next time you have to do that.
Right, so what he had said was his proposal, when it finally does happen, will be for you folks to switch to the other system. So it'd go from 2 tanks and 2 tanks to 1 tank and 1 tank. And like he said, we could let that second set of tanks fail before we replace them. But he said what would be going to the backup role would be the new system, the new kind of resin. And then that would be a better system to have. But once again, we could be several years down the road.
It could be 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a very long time.
We just don't know.
It's tough. I don't have the original tests of what your PFAS levels are, and we didn't design the system, so I only have the information here. But we can certainly help you when you guys need it.
And Rob, I think you said that in the future, people in-house will clean the storage tanks.
Yeah, so we might actually have a company come back and do it once with Greg.
Okay.
Because one of the things we talked about was making sure that the tanks are disinfected. So cleaning is one thing, scrubbing out all the junk that's in there, flushing them out, but then you do have to disinfect them to some level. And he said that's not something that they do. They don't come in and do the tanks. So the company that did it last time, we're thinking about maybe having them, if nothing else, maybe just come in at the end. So it might be a little bit of money to show us how do you properly disinfect the tanks. Because obviously the last thing we want to do is not properly do that. But the cleaning of them, absolutely. There's no reason why we have to hire that job out to somebody.
And then I can come back when you're all done and I can
And
check
test
your
the water,
chlorine levels again too.
Yeah.
We don't even have I'll just fold that in.
And we'll do everything during the summer. That way we have plenty of time. If something happens or there's an issue, it won't be like the last time we did it. We did it over the Christmas break, which the problem with that is that was a short break. We could have had a problem. We obviously can't operate without water, so getting that clean during the summer will be our goal. So we'll do it this summer and we'll see how it goes, and he'll come and test it. He already promised that, so yeah, we'll make sure it's good and safe.
So I guess the bottom line is this tech is probably not going to end up costing you more on an O&M-based system than the system you've got, because we were probably topping up the calcite on that once or twice a year. It's probably costing you between $500 to $1,000 for us to do that. PM on the chemical feed pump is like $600, I think, for a year. So we're kind of looking at the same ongoing. It will take a little bit more diligence on the part of the facility staff, but we can certainly walk them through that. And the nice thing about this product is it's shelf stable. So you can fill that day tank. It's not like putting salt in where you don't want to fill the salt tank up because it's going to bridge. You can fill it all the way to the top, and you don't have to worry about filling it up till it's almost at the bottom. So you probably only have to pay attention to it every couple, 3 months, in all reality.
And Greg felt no concern about it whatsoever. He was there for the walkthrough and the talk, so we feel very confident. He's already completely managing that salt system so much better. I mean, like he said, he did the test, it was basically negligible, so, and that's never been the
Orders of
case.
magnitude.
That's interesting.
So,
Does anybody have any questions about the bid? Or the cost?
that's just important.
And that proposal includes 4 return visits for us to make sure everything's dialed
Yes.
in. It's sort of a standard issue on one of these pumps, and that'll probably be me.
As part of your discussion, I think this falls under one of the items we talked about using that extra 100,000 for, right? Was the water system one of those?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so that would be coming from the capital reserve fund.
Just want to make sure that was still the plan.
Yeah.
Right. Do you guys have any questions for Michael?
Is anybody concerned about sole source? Because I can address that if you do. I just didn't want to.
I was gonna, go ahead, please address that one.
The problem we're going to have with certain industries, this is one of them, E&E is another one with our heat system. They become so familiar with your system and everything that they've put into it that to change systems like you did with the PFAS system creates headaches. We can't get that company to come back and look at that at all. It was almost impossible. I mean, it took months of effort to finally get the person on the phone for 10 minutes to get us the basic information that he needed. So my concern is changing companies on certain types of systems like a water system where they're so intimately familiar with it. I understand sometimes looking for better pricing. The only concern I have with that is that you might save a few bucks now, but down the road pay for it like we're kind of paying for it with the PFAS system. You definitely got the cheaper product, but you also got uncertainty and you got the cheaper product. If we had known what we know now, we probably would have recommended, even at that point, maybe that was the case. I wasn't here during that time. We would have recommended the more expensive product to get you something that's more predictable and something that's more reliable. And the test, by the way, is $300 a year. We wouldn't necessarily have had to do that with that other system because it's a known entity. So that's all I'm going to say about is that there's certain systems that I worry about us moving around to who's cheapest. Sometimes, and they might be. I mean, who knows how that bid would come out? All I'm saying is that I get worried about having another company bring their product in and then somehow trying to get second wind to service someone else's product. So I highly recommend sticking with the company we know. But once again, I leave it just to the board to decide on that.
So, Michael, this quote we have was dated 10/13/2023, and is this quote still good today?
Oh, he just sent it to me the other day.
Yeah, I updated the pricing. It hadn't changed significantly. But as long as what you have is what I sent over recently,
Okay,
and I have the most recent iteration of it with me right here. I'm showing 12,690 as the total. Yeah, that's the price I'll honor.
and are all the parts readily available?
Absolutely. This is a fairly popular pump. So at some point, should you decide that you no longer want to work with us, it would break my heart. But I would understand, and you could hire another company who could readily get these parts from a standard distributor. They're not proprietary.
Anybody else have-
I do appreciate the opportunity. We try really hard to be a value-added company. I've been selling to the trades for 25 years. I've sold for a company that sold through Home Depot and did really down and dirty work. And I sold for a company that did public work at Park Plaza Hotel. I'm very proud of the company I work for. We really go to great, I mean, I'm here, I was more than happy to take 4 hours of my time to inventory your pump house of stuff that I'm never going to sell you, that I just wanted you to understand what its lifespan was and what its impact on your long-term budget was. I also owned a business for 6 years, so I've been in your budgeting position. I feel like we're a long-term partner, and I'd love to continue that. And I understand however you decide you want to go forward, but we're not just someone that has a truck and we don't show up when you need us. We also have 24-hour support. So if you called at 2 a.m, you'd get somebody like me on the phone who could pull up your pictures and all of your technician notes and all of your install notes and all of your settings and help walk you through problem solving.
So how what is the warranty of your work, both the labor and the materials?
I would have to get you the materials in that because that varies by manufacturer and by distributor.
Okay,
Our standard commercial install is 1 year.
one,
Obviously, we're here. If something goes wrong, we made it happen. We're just gonna take care of it.
okay.
That's how they treated us today. So I'm just saying, it's been an excellent relationship, so that's why I'm also encouraging it.
Well, we do have the authority as a board to use our discretion with that policy.
Yes.
Um,
So do you want to make a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion, so I move we approve Rob to enter into agreement with Second Wind Water Systems for the purpose of supplying us with this neutralizer as presented in the information that's provided to us for the cost of $12,690, which will come from our capital reserve fund, our I&B fund.
We have a second
Go second.
discussion? Rob, could we have the date fixed, and then could you have this scanned into the minutes?
Can you just send me a new quote with the date updated?
Absolutely.
It's a PDF, so I can't edit
Debbie,
it.
do you want the name changed?
The prepared
Yeah, this
for
has the
name
old date on
also.
it too.
Well, and could
Oh,
we-
I prepared for,
Oh, yes,
prepared for me,
yes,
Rob
yes,
Seward.
yes, I saw that, yes.
I didn't see it. Yeah,
I did.
sorry. Those are the types of details I sometimes don't look for,
Right.
but I got you.
Okay. All right, anybody else have any questions? Okay, Eric,
Yes,
Jess, yeah, Katrina,
Yes.
Kyle,
Yes.
and Debbie, yes. Okay, thank you, Michael, very much.
Michael, as part of that quote, can you get me a timeline? Just so we can start to plan.
Yes.
Thank you, that'd be perfect. Good, good. Okay, let's look at the agenda.
Folks, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank
I
you.
Thank
look forward to
you.
doing some more work with you. Robert, thank you. We'll be in touch.
Yes, absolutely. Did you guys like my drawing?
Did you do that?
I did
Very nice, so you like a.
We
like a
This is what he taught me in those couple of
we
hours.
actually, at our facilities meeting last night, we were tracing it
Oh, yeah,
out.
we were going
Like, okay,
through
this makes sense now.
Couldn't figure out how to make meter arrows, but there you go.
Very nice, thank you. All right, so let's look at the agenda. Is it the review of our school board minutes? Is that next? 'Cause
Yes.
I'm looking for my agenda,
It is.
right? Can't I find it? Oh, there it is, okay. All right, approval of school board minutes from March 6, 2025. Motion?
I move we approve our school board minutes from March 6, 2025. Are those public and non-public?
Yes.
Public and non-public.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second.
Discussion.
I had a few changes on the public minutes.
Okay.
Line 43 should say 8th grade representatives. It just says 8 representatives. Line 51, where it says a couple of changes were discussed, I think it should say requested, just to make sure that we were requesting that they be changed. Line 108. Installment should be installation, and between additional and AED, should say outdoor. That was all I had.
Does anybody else have anything?
Just that it's now installed.
That's great.
Yes, I noticed that, thank you.
The agenda says March 6th, but it was actually March 5th.
What was that?
It was March 5th, not
Yeah.
March 6th.
Yeah, so when we have to,
Just the agenda.
yeah, we have to.
Oh,
we
so
have to
should I,
just-
I'll amend my,
Yes,
so I will amend my motion to approve the public and non-public minutes from the March 5th, 2025 school board meeting.
did you second?
I did, I'll amend it.
Okay, all right. The only other thing, and I like your format, and I see what you're doing, I love it. But I think I just would like to, we praised both groups for doing such a good job in their presentation to the kids. I just think that should be noted, that the board thanked and praised the students for their presentations. I think that's it. Anything else? No? Okay. Eric?
Yes.
Jess?
Yeah.
Katrina?
Yeah.
Kyle?
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. Alrighty, so we have Michael. Superintendent's report, the manifest. Anybody have any questions about the manifest?
I'm still going through it.
Still going through it?
Did you understand the notes? Were those
I didn't
making
give it.
sense?
I didn't
Was
give it.
that after the, I don't think I saw the
So
Nothing on it.
we learned that our system, when we void a check, automatically puts it back in for payment again, because what they assume is that you're voiding it because of the check not clearing. So we now know that if we void a check that doesn't need to get paid again, we need to go into a special part of the system to delete that from it. And April and I both walked through it today. We know how to do it. We'll make sure we do that in the future. And that's what happened in both cases, was voids went right back in automatically, which we did not anticipate. So she'll also look for voided checks as part of, because they don't show up on the list of manifest items either. So that's one of the things she'll have to look for moving forward as well. But we learned some lessons today. Like I said, it's a big learning curve right now.
It looks good.
Okay, alrighty, so next we have our resignations and new hires.
Yes, so we have no resignations this time, thank goodness. We're tired of those. We've got 3 hires though, so why don't we start with Mary O'Brien. Mary O'Brien is going to be working for us when she can as a CAF and recess duty monitor, which is part of our budget. It's been unfilled so far this year, so we have the full amount of the budget left to expend here. But once again, she can only do a couple of days a week. So we're thankful for what we can get. And it'll be at the most 3 hours a day, at the most 15 hours a week. It's $16.37 an hour. And it comes from that general ledger line that I mentioned a moment ago.
Do you want to do all 3 of them now?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Sorry about that. Okay, then next I'm looking at Crystal Archibald. Crystal is going to be a part-time paraprofessional, and she will be up to 6 hours a day, up to 30 hours a week, and she's coming to us with a BABS at step 2.1 for $17.62 an hour. Last but not least is Savannah Ridley. Savannah is a paraprofessional full-time. She will be coming to us for 7 hours a day, 35 hours a week. She's a non-HQT, step 1 at $16.12 an hour. And this does bring us within 2 full-time positions left to be filled that we're going to continue to work on. Obviously, we still have those contracted folks as well, so they're above and beyond those 2, but we're getting closer,
Okay, would you like to make a nomination? Accept the nomination for all 3?
Yeah, so I move we accept the nomination for all 3 applicants as presented and discussed.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will say.
Okay, so everyone can start immediately, pretty much?
These folks, yes.
Great. Anybody else have any questions? All right, Jess?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Katrina?
Yes.
Kyle?
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. Okay. No, but
We can do them right now if you want,
Yeah.
but why don't we just.
all right, so I am signing contracts. All right, this is
That's for the
Mary.
CAF supervisor, yeah.
Okay, Mary's.
This is for the part-time, right?
What's her salary?
Oh, it's on the previous, well, actually, we can see right up there. That's for the full-time para. Same thing for salary, just right there. Can Can I borrow the coaches page? Sure. I gave mine out to somebody. All right, so we also have 2 coaches to nominate. Let's see, Richard Heath for our baseball coach and Audrey Dolan as our softball coach. Both of them to be stipended at $1,300 per the CBA, which will be coming out of the operating budget associated line.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Or, and I'll give you some feedback after you make a motion.
So I move we accept the nomination of Richard Heath for baseball coach at a stipended amount of $1,300, and Audrey Dolan for softball coach at a stipended amount of $1,300, both from their respective lines in the general ledger of the budget.
Okay, do we have a second? And I'm just gonna add, I know Audrey's been coaching for us for so many years, which is wonderful. And Richard is a new coach. I did participate in that, has a lot of experience in baseball, and he lives in town, so we think it's gonna be a good fit. Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay. All right, Eric,
Yes.
Jess? Yes. Katrina? Kyle?
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. Okay.
All right, facility use is next on the list. I have handed you out a third one that was not part of the packet. It came to us, but it's timely, so I couldn't wait for the next meeting. We'll go through them in the order that we have. So the Pancake Committee for May 10th, which is a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and it'll be on school grounds.
Sure.
Okay. Next is the Garden Club annual plant sale. I remember this from last year. It's the Strafford Garden Club. They're going to be here on Saturday, May 24th, 8 a.m. to noon. And then the third one is the Blackberry Youth Lacrosse Program. The youth, they're going to be practicing when our facilities are available. We made it very clear to them that they're going to be fitting in where there's openings, because a lot of stuff's already been scheduled in our gyms. Plus, with the weather the way it's been, we believe some of our tryouts and practices are going to have to be inside for baseball and softball. They're completely fine with that. It was a last minute one. I handed out.
I don't think I saw that one.
Did I not hand it out?
I don't see it.
I could have sworn I handed it out. But no, it's right here. I apologize. I've handed so many things out, I got lost. There we go. There you go. All right, sorry about that, Eric. Good call. So once again, they have been approved in the past, as my understanding, but that, once again, this is kind of late in the game, so they're going to take what's available.
Okay. Does anyone like to make a motion to approve these?
Yes, so I move we accept the facility use requests as presented for the Garden Club annual plant sale, which is an ongoing item. The pancake, that's from the Strafford Garden Club. The pancake breakfast fundraiser for Saturday, May 10th from 9 to 12 from the Strafford Playground Committee. And for youth lacrosse practice from Black Bear Youth Lacrosse from 3/17 to 4/18 for Monday through Friday on dates when they can actually fit in there, when the gymnasium is not being used.
So this is gonna be from the gym, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
that's why it's
Right, okay.
available.
Okay, does anybody have any, oh, I'm sorry, so you made a motion, Anybody- a second, please?
I will second.
Okay, discussion?
The Garden Club annual plant sale is on May 24th from 8 to noon. It looks like everybody's provided their insurance information. And
These
we
are-
have not, have we charged?
Oh,
I don't know
That's what I
if
was gonna ask.
For which one?
Well, for the lacrosse one, I assume that we have to have, do we have to have a janitor, like, close up? Like, how does that work for
Like I know when the rec is here, like it's
Right.
that's like a different situation, but this is like more of an outside organization, so.
Well, I don't remember them actually using the facility. Maybe I'm wrong. I know that they've used
Might have been the fields.
they may have, and also used the National Guard, because we've actually participated in the National Guard. It's a community group. I don't believe they're for profit, and I believe they are, they're basically a Northwood, Nottingham, and Strafford community group, so it's not just Strafford. So,
I guess I would just say, yeah, I guess we'll just have to, I just wanna make sure we see consistent, it's just like, there's a lot of different sports groups like these days, like, and, if it's like, oh, you can go use Stratford for free.
no, you're right,
That's all.
you're right.
Not that I'm saying we need to, or we need to charge them full price or anything, I just didn't know, are we paying for resources when somebody like this comes and uses our building?
The gym will get cleaned daily, but at the same time, it's probably going to be more used than it would have been. So once again, it's hard to measure that.
Do we have to pay somebody additional hours to be here to close up the building, or is there typically always somebody here until 8 o'clock on those days?
Yeah, I mean, once again, it would be a rarity that we don't have somebody now because we're fully staffed.
And I don't remember, having the lacrosse in the gym before, so I don't know. Does anybody remember that?
No, they didn't do it in the gym last year.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember Black Bear Lacrosse ever coming in front of the board.
Okay. I
Yeah,
might have been mistaken. I know we had a lacrosse last year. I just
There are
don't
no
know what it
lacrosse.
was.
They are there.
But the
so,
gym partial day would be the $60 on this form.
and I think a lot of Strafford kids do participate, so it's Strafford, Nottingham,
And we
and
don't have
Northwood.
lacrosse,
Yeah,
our own lacrosse.
So- I guess we can see how it goes, make sure that our building's taken care of, and then take it from there.
I'm good with that. I will point out, because somebody mentioned this to me recently, about the rec. The rec has partnered with us in the past
Right,
and contributed financially to different projects
Right.
around the school.
Right.
So we've always haven't charged them to use the facilities. So I'm fine with monitoring this, and if it's good, if they're not adding to the burden of the building, it's a program the community youth participates in, I'm good with it.
so I guess when you let them know, that you would say that we're approving it for this year, and we want to make sure that they're taking care of the building, that we don't need to have extra custodians on duty, because then they will be charged, right?
I guess I'm just more concerned with what you just said, which is that the rec is getting it for free because they offset it. These folks are getting it free and they're not offsetting it. I'm just worried that that's going to create potentially a row.
Well, it's at our discretion. I believe it's at the board's discretion, and this is something that the children from the community benefit from this, and Kyle said it's a nonprofit. So we just looked that up.
Yep.
I was only concerned because you made that last comment. I wasn't concerned until you said that. I'm like, oh, is the
Well,
rec
I
going
mean,
to suddenly be upset? So
We've allowed, I think, the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts to use the building, which are
Yeah.
a local community group.
okay.
We've allowed other,
So you got past practice.
I
now.
mean,
Okay.
we have the Garden Club, it's a community group.
Yeah.
We have nonprofit community groups, as we talked about, we're the community center, right? So,
Yeah, that was just standard board practice for nonprofits.
Awesome.
It's kind of what I.
well, it's nonprofit community groups, because if it's, let's just say somebody from Dover wants to come use our building, they're a community group from Dover, that's not our community that the taxpayers are funding. You know what I mean? That their kids are participating in those things. All right, that's at least what we've done before, so,
I think we just have to approve.
okay. Eric,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Yes.
Kyle, and Debbie, yes.
All right, next, fourth grade celebration. This is, I thought, an excellent idea. I hadn't thought of it myself, but we are trying to create that two school, one roof kind of concept. Natalie thinks it would be really nice to have some sort of a special event to kind of say to the fourth graders, congratulations on completing your elementary portion of this experience. And, welcome to the middle school experience that you're about to embark upon. She gave a really nice explanation that's in the packet. I strongly support this just because I think it's just perfect. It's what most schools do, and we're really, like I said, trying to create that two-school feel, so.
Is there a reason she's having it so early in June? I think the whole idea is great. I just was wondering.
She was trying to avoid other end of the year activities and not be competitive. Once again, if you're like, no, we want it the same week as eighth grade celebration, I'm sure she can make that adjustment. I think once again, the idea was kind of like the kindergartners do it earlier, just to make sure we don't get in the way of the big event, right? But it's up to you. If you want it to be a little bit later, I could talk to her about that and we can come up with an alternative date.
I just was wondering,
I'm fine with it as it's
Yeah.
proposed.
it sounds like she already has people committed to that date, so that, I think for this year, that's fine.
If the feedback is though to have it a little bit later, I'm sure we can adjust it.
Well,
for
I
the
just
future.
think of kids, it's like, once you go through that, you're done.
You know,
It's
they're like checked
okay,
out.
I'm done, I really graduated.
But,
I get that. yeah.
does anybody want to make a motion to approve this
So
celebration?
I move that we approve this fourth grade celebration as presented to us in our board packet for kids moving on to middle school. And this year's will be Thursday, June 5th.
Okay, do we have a second?
I was like,
Feedback from Natalie, she's watching.
Oh, she's she said she's flexible, she doesn't matter. It's up to you, if you.
I don't
we'll
think
just leave
that,
it
I
to-
don't think that we'd have to approve the date.
The date, yeah.
It's like
Say
whatever,
it's up-
whatever
it's-
works for everyone.
Right,
It's
we're
just been
approving
that-
that it's going to happen in an evening, and if she wants to change
Stay
the date,
flexible.
if you're watching Natalie, if you wanna change the date, that's up to you. You know your people, your kids.
Then I will amend my motion to
Okay.
just approve the end of fourth grade celebration as presented in our packet here for the kids moving on to middle school, date to be as seen fit.
Okay, do you have a second?
Oh, second.
Okay.
And I guess I just had the comment that like, I would assume this would just be approved as an annual event, like it's not something that needs to
Right.
come back to the board every year.
Okay, we're good?
Mhm.
All right. All right. Jess?
Yeah.
Eric?
Yes,
Katrina?
Yes.
Kyle?
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. Have fun, Natalie.
The school calendar is just, last year we were a little late, so I'd like it to be a little earlier if it's possible. All I did is what I always do. I took this year's calendar, adjusted it for all of next year's days. I compared it with Co-Brown and the state's recommendations as far as when vacations are. We aligned perfectly with those. The only controversy, if we even can call it that, is that we have an interesting year coming up, which is that the day for students to return from holiday break is January 2nd, as always, but that's a Friday. So we would have a one-day school week, which is odd. I don't know if that would be very productive. So option one is exactly the way it's supposed to be, which is that we come back on the 2nd and that our teacher workshop is the day after Martin Luther King Day. I thought as an option two to put on the table was to swap those around to say, what if that's a teacher workshop day? And we have the day after Martin Luther King Day as a regular school day. So just thought that was a good option too. I'm open to anything, obviously. I just wanted to give you something that you might be able to approve tonight.
It makes sense because you would want to come back for one day.
Yeah,
If people go away, they can have the whole,
And we
Yeah.
used to have teacher workshop day on that day.
yes.
You did,
Yes.
historically, yes.
Yeah, it was just more like when it was like
Like on
a
Monday.
Monday or
Yes.
something. Yeah.
That also aligns with Co-Brown, so you're in alignment for one additional day by
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I was supportive of option two. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
I just had, we want to make a motion to approve and then discuss, or,
I think it needs a correction.
I know, so I didn't know if we should.
Did you see the
should-
correction?
Yeah, well, like, so under January.
Yeah.
It just needs to be changed, the written out from January 20th teacher workshop day to be
January.
January 2nd.
Yeah.
And then under other days, the first day of school, I think, is actually the 25th, not the 26th. Under the bottom right-hand corner where it lists out
I'm sorry, say that one again for me.
So the bottom right-hand corner, it
Yeah.
says other days. It says August 26th is the first day of school for students, but I think it would be the 25th.
Okay,
Yeah, the calendar.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, sorry about that. All right, so I got that one fixed, and then I'm still looking, I was actually looking for the last one. You said to spell out.
Yeah, so like, you know, how you have it written out.
Oh, yes, I see what you're saying. So
Yeah.
1, 2, yep, I got you.
Yeah.
I did move that, you're right. All right, got that fixed.
Okay, so we could make a motion. I know, Eric, you had a question about something last year, and I don't know. We could make our motion and then we can discuss it, but you had a question about Columbus Day last year.
That's right, I'll ask that when we discuss.
Okay, all right.
So I move that we adopt option 2 for our 25-26 school year calendar with the changes as discussed to the teachers' workshop day and the August 25th start date, just those little administrative corrections.
Okay, do we have a second
I will second.
discussion?
So I was trying to remember, I cannot honestly remember if we always took Columbus Day off. And I don't know if this is going back before COVID or, I felt like it was not a day that was always a day off for students.
I thought that we did only because that usually is the peak of foliage and a lot of people take it to go up north.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
It's
think
like,
it's President's, well, in my mind, it was President's Day that we don't usually get, 'cause it's close to February.
We don't
Maybe,
get
maybe
President's
that's
Day.
what,
Yeah.
maybe,
But I'm not trying to.
yeah, no, I couldn't remember.
President's Day always falls the Monday before vacation week, so we always just take it off during vacation week. I've never not known it, but if you want, I can do a deep dive and see if I can figure out how, if it goes back 10 years or whatever.
No,
Columbus Day matches the co-brown schedule as well.
you know, we just take like the extra day for the teacher
And-
workshop, which
Right.
I kind of like the timing of it. It's like a, it's like a spot where it feels like maybe you need a break. But much is fine.
And Veterans Day, we always take I know we do a lot here for veterans. That's why do we always take Veterans Day off?
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh, I'm not,
No.
I don't.
It's not even me. You would, that would be an uphill climb.
Okay, I'm just looking.
We will celebrate, like, the Veterans Day ceremony almost always comes the day before.
Right,
I think if
okay.
it was on Monday, no, it'd still be the day before, we do it on Friday. So we always do it the day before, and we always invite people. It's always a
Right.
very nice
that's right, there
ceremony.
was a Veterans Day.
We actually have a veteran running it, which is nice, so.
All right, does anybody else have any other questions, anything they see?
Nope, that one's it.
Benches go round for the most part, right?
Yeah, the only and I actually think it's fine this way, but like, for example, we have a teacher's workshop day on the Tuesday after Columbus Day, and they have one a couple weeks prior, like the end of September, I think it is. I guess, we haven't heard any complaints or feedback about trying to align more with their teacher workshops or anything, so I assume that it works better where it is in October for us. So.
But I was also asked not to make it a Friday or a Monday.
No,
So
yeah,
that's-
no,
that's why
I like
Yeah.
where it is there.
So both October and,
Did you
March.
get any feedback from like anybody, staff, or the union or anything about the calendar, if they had any?
I haven't heard anything from anybody.
Okay.
Okay, we ready? Good? All right, Eric,
Yes,
Jess?
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Kyle,
Yes.
and Debbie, yes, so that's a good thing, we got that done, you're happy, right? That done for you, right?
All right. Greg Colby has completed our MS-22. It's in your packets, but I have the official one that needs to be signed by y'all right here. So I will pass that around. Obviously, the discussion to ensue, all that, I'm just letting you know that I've got one to sign, so.
Okay.
on this other appropriations on page 36, is that our bond lines 5110 and 5120? think,
What page are you on?
Yes, it is.
page
Oh,
36.
okay.
Yes,
Sorry.
it is.
All right.
Okay, yeah, it's at $385,000
Yes.
payment for our bond.
Yes.
Yeah, we paid in two parts, principal and interest.
But then we also receive aid from the state to go towards it. We
That's
were
our
like,
revenue lines.
yeah, that's revenue. We were the last district at that time to be able to get building aid, and it came 30%. I don't know if they're still doing it anymore.
Do you have to vote to approve the MS-22? I don't know, I can't remember.
Let's make a motion just to, so that we don't get called back, because we did.
I move we approve the MS 22.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. So this is the 2025 MS 22. Alrighty. Eric,
Yes.
Jess.
Yes.
Katrina.
Yes.
Kyle.
Yes.
And Debbie, yes.
I do have the annual meeting minutes and elected officials forms. Keisha was not able to make, she was gonna try and make it in tonight to sign this and the MS-22, she wasn't able to. Hopefully by tomorrow I'll have those, and as soon as I have them all signed and ready, I'll put them online like I do all the other docs. Next item is the nomination list. We did discuss this thoroughly in non-public, as is appropriate. At this point, looking to see if we want to make a motion to accept the list as presented.
I move we accept the nomination list for staff for the 2025-2026 school year as presented in non-public.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, discussion. Okay. Alrighty. Eric,
Yes.
Jess.
Yes.
Katrina.
Yes.
Kyle.
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. So we're really, that's great, because normally we would do that at the beginning of April, so you're right on top of things.
Trying to be.
Yeah, very good.
I don't have this on the agenda. Should I bring up the student at playing softball at Co-Brown now, or?
Why don't we just do that? Yeah,
Okay.
so we don't
So I
forget.
do have a request from a parent that their child be allowed to play on the girls softball team at Co-Brown. As we had talked about, this is because they're going to be attending something at Co-Brown. Typically, historically, you've had this go through the board, so.
So I move we approve the request for this student to participate in softball at Co-Brown as discussed.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? I wish you well, it's fun. They have a great program. Okay. Alrighty, Eric,
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Katrina?
Yes.
Kyle?
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. Alright, this is what you want to say.
Yes, please. All right. Ongoing completed and board meeting list. I'm happy to announce the AD machine has been mounted. I know that's been a long time waiting for the snow to melt and for it to be a little clear out there. Obviously, if there's any other questions about anything, let me know. We're still working on about half the list still needs to be done here, but we're getting there. Slowly but steadily, it's getting checked off.
And again, I just want to praise Rob for creating and keeping us aware using this this format. This is really, I think I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I've had other boards look at our minutes and see this and think that, they're very impressed that you do this, so.
If anybody ever wants to, the entire document's available to you. You can go back through a whole couple of years worth of this stuff now. All right. Next, this is an interesting thing going on, and a new piece has come out since I put your packets together. I think it came just today, maybe it was late yesterday. So this one's from the Secretary of State. So Health Trust and the Secretary of State are kind of at war with each other. They definitely don't agree with each other, we'll put it that way. In a nutshell, the best I can understand, the state is trying to pass a law, right now it's Senate Bill 297, and this bill is basically putting layers of guidance, restriction, whatever word you want to use, upon organizations like Health Trust. Health Trust appears to be very unhappy with this, and the most important reason I'm bringing this to you now, number one, is because both the Secretary of State and Health Trust have told me that they expected me to bring this to the board, but secondly, because Health Trust made a vote recently that if the state passes this as it currently stands, they have voted to go out of business. They will take us through, because we're a July start, they'll take us through our next school year, which covers our CBA. But next year, the dialogue will change in those negotiations that you just volunteered for, because that would require us to figure out a whole new insurance gambit. Now, once again, it's not a done deal. This most recent one from the Secretary of State is basically arguing they think it's kind of a shot across the bow, if you will, kind of a saber rattling by Health Trust. It's hard to say what Health Trust, I mean, they took the vote, it's passed, so I'm not sure how that's saber rattling. But at the same time, I think part of the desire by Health Trust would be for our board to maybe speak out on behalf or against the bill. But at the same time, the Secretary of State's being very clear that they think that this is good governance. And who am I to decide for you? I'm simply putting this information in front of you so you can make an informed decision.
So they do say that it impacts 4 different organizations, and 2 of them agree to the changes if the Senate bill passes. One is Primex, they mentioned that, and then I don't know who the other one is, but
One of the
Primex
other
impacts us. You know, there's 2 sides to every story.
Of course there
It
is.
sounded to me, and I may be wrong, you may have read it, but something different out of this. It sounded to me that some of the things that the state wants to do is already happening, but it hasn't been put in official language as a law.
That's his argument, or that's the Secretary, I should
That's
say.
what I was seeing,
I don't
like,
know if it's a him or not, I'm sorry.
Health Trust doesn't seem to
David, it's him.
agree, but it seemed as though they're saying that they are out, these things are already happening, we just need to solidify the language to make sure it's documented. So that's just what I read. I don't know if somebody else has a different interpretation.
It looked like, from what I read, it looked like Health Trust paid back, or gave back a bunch of money
Yes,
to the
yes.
municipalities,
Yes.
and that depleted their funds,
Mhm.
and now they're working on building them back up.
Right.
And I think it was COVID related, they talked about it being COVID related.
Because utilization during COVID had gotten so low, basically nobody left their homes and all that kind of thing. So utilization dropped. And as a health management group, they have to give back what isn't used for all intents and purposes. Unfortunately, obviously after COVID ended and they've given that money back, utilization has been climbing steadily. And as a result, they do have to get back to pre-COVID numbers in order to get back to where they need to be. But they've been in a multi-year effort to make that happen already. We've already seen that. I think last year I was asked by you guys why the rates had gone up as much as they had. And I would imagine that's part of the answer to that. They've got to be equating that into the equation as they put this whole thing together. So once again, it's hard to say what's right or wrong here. I'm simply making sure you know this debate is going on and that Health Trust has voted to cease to exist if this passes. So that's significant for us just because we're one of the, how many say, 55,000 or I don't know, something like that, people that use it. I don't know, he had the number in one of these documents.
72,000
Oh, okay.
between all coverage lines.
Oh, okay. So it's a lot of people, but we're part of that, right? There's 80 or so people that are covered by Health Trust in our district. So it does matter, it's important, but at the same time, I'm not sure what you can do about it.
And that's called, when we did get a refund, they call it a holiday. Don't they call it a holiday, the insurance, when they give the money back to you?
They might, I honestly, I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Do you remember we
I
did get money
remember we
back
got
from
money and
Health
we
Trust?
were like, where's this from?
Yeah, and that was, I think they had to do that.
That ends mine.
Okay, well, let's hope it works out. wonder what the other group is that's left in New Hampshire then if they leave.
Well, there's school care, there's health trust, and
So
there's another
school care
one.
is staying?
Once again, I don't know, just telling you the names of the ones. I know the school care and health trust. I'm trying to think of the other one. There's definitely another one. But I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Primex was on there.
Well, Primex is a little different, right? I mean, it's a group system, but at the same time, it's for protecting us, liability wise. These other guys are providing us with our health, dental, medical, life. So I think one of the documents mentioned 2 of the companies.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I remember, that's what I'm looking
I
for.
think I
too.
did see school care. When is the Senate voting?
The Senate's already, I believe, voted. I believe this is moving on to the House.
Okay, so.
But remember, anytime, if they adjust it in the House and there's a difference between the 2, then they'll have a joint committee to figure that out. So the Senate will get involved again, I would assume at some point.
Alrighty. Anybody else have anything to say about this?
I hope it works out for the best.
School care, health, and Primex are the other 2 that were listed.
School care,
Those are the 2 that were
and so
listed.
school care staying and
This
Primex.
is also supported by 2 of our 4 pools, school care and Primex.
Good, so school care would be here if. Okay, next, correspondence. We did get an email, we were sort of connected on this chain of emails. Again, I think we brought this up several months ago by Jim Hadley. He has gone to the State Board of Education with some of the concerns about the Co-Brown fund balance. And it's, what, I don't know if anybody else has read this carefully. What confuses me is I believe Co-Brown, when they, retired. Co-Brown, when Co-Brown, I think wrote an email to everyone about this several months ago, they said they used the fund balance to offset the tuition rates, right? Even though we don't know, like, we didn't see the numbers, like, okay, instead of $21,000 per student, it would have been $20,700. We're using fund balance, your portion of the fund balance. So we don't really get those numbers. But Mike, this is what I'm confused about. Both on their tax form that you provided and on that one sheet where it says the cumulative fund balance, it's there. So wouldn't you think if they used the money to offset the tuition that they wouldn't still have the fund balance?
My memory, which is faint, was that it was to offset multiple things, including building projects.
Okay.
That is what they said at the meeting
Okay, that's what I was pretty
before
sure.
last.
Okay.
I don't think they're not allowed to use, I don't think they're allowed to use our money for building projects.
Well, okay, in the tuition breakdown, there is a percentage, I think it's like 2% or something, that's for capital improvements or something like that. So my question is this the cumulative amount of the 2% that they keep over years per student? Do you see what I'm saying?
I think we have to ask them.
I don't know if anybody else has looked at this to think about it.
No, I mean, I've looked at it and I've sat there and said, these are really big numbers, but I don't know
Right.
where they come from or what it's used for, or.
I was wondering is if our, they usually ask us before their meetings, our big joint board meeting, if we have any topics that we want explained. And I would like to have a breakdown for them to just explain to us, okay, if you said that you're using the surplus to offset tuition, then could you do a breakdown and then also explain how it's also been cumulative? Is this like,
So this is This sheet is not Co-Brown's balance sheet. This is just how much they have kept in the surplus
Right,
every year, right?
but it's on their tax form,
Yeah,
it
but it
says,
matches
it
their-
matches their fund balance on their 990 tax
right.
form. So that is what confused me, that they actually still have the surplus. Because I would think if it's offsetting tuition, that it would be going towards salaries and,
Yeah, that's,
you know,
that's true. I didn't look at the tax form.
I made a note to contact CBA and let them know that you guys would like some sort of breakdown explanation at that next regional meeting.
I'm sure there's a reason,
Sure.
but I just don't understand
Yeah.
where this, where that money
And
falls.
Mr. Hadley is pushing hard. He really wants something to happen here. And I think the problem is that it's hard to act without both sides of the equation. And
Yes.
I don't feel like we understand the Co-Brown side of the equation well enough. Like we were just saying a moment ago, I think I remember something about building
Yes.
projects. And then you were like, well, I don't think they get,
Yeah, I
that's what I'm
remember them
saying. So
specifically at one of our previous meetings
Yes.
saying, because the question is, okay, when they're doing these big capital improvement projects,
Yes.
they, they basically said, we're not taking your tuition dollars to
Right.
fund these
Zero.
projects.
So once again, I think we
But
just
I
need that.
agree, a
we
certain
know.
percentage,
Right.
yeah.
Right, this is just a surplus from their budget. It's not necessarily a surplus from what we paid them.
Yeah, I mean, they have different sources of income and
Mm.
they have,
Well, they have endowments,
Mhm.
they have endowments,
Which-
yeah, they have endowments.
That's why they're different than a traditional
Right.
public school,
Right,
because they're allowed
right,
to.
so maybe
call
then
the
they
money
can
when it's there.
explain, maybe they can break
Yeah.
that down. Okay, the other correspondence I just wanted to mention was that, Chief, excuse me, Young, I met him a couple of weeks ago, and he wanted to let me know, so I could let the board know, that, he and the police department are very happy with the changes in the administration. They're very happy with the way things are going this year as far as behavior, that they are not getting involved as much, they're not having to have parents call them. So he just wanted to just let us know that they're very appreciative of the new administration. Great to hear. Anybody else?
yeah, I guess now would be the time. So I had spoke briefly on some points, because I didn't want to mention names in public, but just from being out in the public and being at town meetings and stuff, and having conversations with community members and people who work within the school, but they're community members. Just some light was brought to sort of the need to have better training for our paraprofessionals, and just some sort of questions around, can we kind of make our whatever we offer to our special education students maybe more robust. And I'm not educated on that side of things. I know that we've asked Melissa to come and present to us, so I just look forward to continuing that conversation as a board. And obviously staffing is probably one of the biggest parts of that, because Rob gave us tonight, we're still not fully staffed with paras, but just something that I think as a board we can become more familiar with. It's just, that's something where we're seeing the costs for that, like, just continue to grow and grow. And so it's just something I think we all would like to just better understand how it works, and if we can support it additionally in any way.
Yeah, I think that's great. I just was thinking, when I taught in Stratham, we actually had a university come to the school to offer classes for teachers. And I'm thinking about para training, and it made it easier for teachers they were encouraging teachers to get their masters. So, I'm just wondering if there are any, like NHTI or UNH or something, if someone would be willing, since we do have an amount of money we allow both the teachers and paras to use for education, correct?
Yep.
So they could be reimbursed. If we can actually make it easier for people to take some classes, if you could actually work with, it's like SNU or something. And if you had enough people sign up to take a course, they'd actually come here and work with the group. So it's just something to think about, because I know we're talking about the paras. Oh,
Natalie is watching still, and she says, I'm already working on something with GBCC, Great Bay
That's
Community
Good,
College.
thank you,
very
Natalie.
It took me a
Good.
second with the, I was like, GBCC, okay.
No,
I got it.
that's great, thank you, Natalie, it's something that's really important, and they will, if you have enough interest, all we did, I think we had to have like a certain amount of people that were willing to do it. And then people were like, you know, it was also encouraging because you end up getting more money, because you get moving up steps, more education you have.
I see Natalie at home snapping her fingers. She likes to snap when it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So just like right now, I'm just picturing her doing that.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, that's it. All right, anything else, correspondence?
I had a community member come up to me during town meeting,
Mhm.
and he's kind of taken an interest in our water situation. So I encouraged him to write an email, which I don't think he's done yet.
Yes.
But he was asking questions about our leach field and our water filtration system, and if our water system has an effect on the leach field. I kind of asked the representative tonight from the water company, but I'm going to encourage him, if he has further questions, to reach out.
He also offered to provide some support, so
Mhm.
I'm intrigued to see what that support might look like. So I'd love it if he does reach out. I will make contact as soon as I receive that, so.
Great. Alrighty, that's it. Okay, community calendar, you guys are doing it again.
Another year.
We talked about something tied to facilities, remember the tab on the.
Oh, yes, and we haven't talked about that because we're going to talk about it. Well, so leading from the district meeting and the talk around town meeting and stuff, people from the community who work for different trades companies or are service providers or vendors were kind of expressing interest in, hey, we kind of like to get on a list. So what we were thinking, and what I thought of, we both agreed in the facilities meeting last night, that if it's possible to have something on the homepage, like a tab, like something service providers, vendors / tradesmen looking to be added to our list of contacts, I think that would be good help build a network up of tradesmen from our community that we could rely upon and call in times of need. I think that would be good.
And some of those comments that we got at the end of school district meeting, I think it was, there were folks that used to do work here and volunteer time. And I think not having a local facilities person, some of those connections are just no longer. So we were none the wiser, and they didn't know those people had left, and
Yeah.
we kind of lost this relationship. So I think it'd be a good way to reach out to community members.
So you're gonna write about that in the calendar?
Yes, definitely reaching out, and if Rob thinks it's possible to get a tab on the homepage,
But
then.
we
Probably,
saw the
I
other
do it right
day.
now, but
Probably hasn't done
I
already.
don't want to multitask.
Then that, we're good, so we'll write about that in community calendar, and
Great.
we could probably also discuss, because it was part of the district meeting, that we were going to be using the capital reserve funds. We're doing the neutralizer like we discussed. That would be something else we could talk about. I don't know if anybody else has any additions or suggestions, but.
It kind of follows on the tails of the volunteering communications kind of.
Yes, very good, yes. Good. Good. All right, committee updates. We have policy committee.
So I confirmed with Eric, so we're April 4th, I think that's the one, Friday, April 4th at 11 a.m. We have our meeting scheduled for.
Great.
Can I make a request? We actually look to place multiple meetings in. I've got several policies that are required by law that we really need to dive into.
Yeah, maybe we could do like a every other Friday.
Something like that.
something
You guys
like
talk
that.
about it.
Okay. We can look-
I think
I'll
you-
look at my calendar.
I'm free on Friday, so I think it's your schedule that would.
Okay, yeah, I'll just.
So whatever works for you, I'll just confirm that it's still good for me.
Okay, now facilities committee.
We held a facilities committee meeting last night, the first one in a while, and Rob had given us a list of basically things that were on his radar, and we discussed each one of those. We already discussed the water treatment system tonight. The smaller scale projects that we were talking about from the discussion at the district meeting with the capital reserve fund, like the siding and pavement repair, what we kind of discussed last night is before we agree that the water lean-to definitely needs to be done right now. But we're thinking that before we agree to side the rest of the buildings, the rest of the outbuildings, it might be beneficial to get our pavement assessed to see what we're looking at there. As far as, I know you said you had one company come in, but it's.
I've got a second one that said they'll come when the ground is clear, and it is now, so I'll be checking back in with them again. And then a third company never got back to me, so I'll keep pushing, but I mean, even if we get just 2 quotes that kind of help us better understand, because all we're doing right now is seeking understanding.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you want to do this, it's going to be more than 10,000.
Well,
We're going to have to go out to bid.
Yes,
so.
yes, the thought is that I'd hate to, I'm picturing us siding all the buildings and then spending a good chunk of that money and then, oh, we really should have prioritized the pavement. So before we make that decision, just know where we're at with the pavement.
Because I think it's unclear if, we're curious if we can do repairs or patches versus replacing
So
and what those associated costs would be.
the lower parking lot up that hill to that section that's right at the top, the guy that was here was explaining to me, we never top coated that. So that, he said, just needs to be cleaned and top coated. He said other places he was already seeing, he goes, we can do crack repair on that next section that's above what I think you guys said is the leach field, right? If you keep moving away from the SAU.
Yeah, and where the old
Yeah.
oil tanks were and stuff
Okay,
like that,
right.
that area.
So that I think was more of a crack sealing type of thing. And then he hadn't gotten the rest of the way around the building, and I haven't seen him or seen his report, so I don't know how the rest of it fared. But I can definitely say the top coating piece was a big concern of his, because he says it's great. He goes, we don't have to grind it down. But he said it is definitely crumbling because it's not designed to be your outer layer.
It
So
seems like there's drainage issues on that inside corner too, where some of it looks like it's already been patched.
oh, we patch that every year. The coming up by the hill, yeah, oh yeah, we patch that every year. It's kind of like when you first come in off the road, the PD or the town, whoever does it, has to patch that as well every year. Just it washes right away. And that's because cold patch isn't very good.
Right.
You know, it's a rough product. You put it down as hard as you can. You run over it with your tires a couple of times, and then hope it doesn't rain so hard that it washes it away. So
Sounds like things are going good as far as learning the heating system and getting that more in order. Sounds like you guys have done a lot of repairs now that Greg has come on.
Yeah.
Replacing a lot of zone valves and stuff like that. Briefly looked at the maintenance log. It looks like everything is being addressed, which is a very good thing.
I see notes on that too. I appreciate that the new process is that once it's entered, then they go and talk to the person to follow up.
Yeah. And we actually end up talking to them usually multiple times. Like we'll say, hey, we know this is a problem. We'll be on our way. And then after it's done, we follow up, hey, if there's anything else about this that you feel unsatisfied with, please get back to us.
Yep.
And they've been very appreciative. The staff has been reporting that they're very happy with the support they're getting from facilities.
Great.
And it looks like the emergency generator didn't kick on for the SAU, but when the company came out to diagnose it for you, you guys learned.
We learned how to fix
So
it
you can
ourselves
handle,
next time.
so that'll prevent future calls for certain situations. So sounds like good things are happening. I like that. We looked at we reviewed the plow costs for the year, and I don't know, Rob, did we end up having one more storm after what you?
So we have 3 invoices that we didn't receive that we now have.
Right, there's some.
So that
Okay.
number I gave you is no longer accurate. We
Okay,
haven't had a storm, I don't believe since then. We had the thing yesterday, but I don't even know if they came.
that was that Monday, 1 inch.
Yeah,
whatever
I
it
didn't,
was.
Monday, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
yesterday's Tuesday. Monday, the storm we had, I didn't see them. That doesn't mean they didn't come, I just didn't see them, so. Did you see them? They did, okay, so we are gonna get another bill then, yes. So we're definitely over that. Remember they said if you had just hired us for the season, it would have cost this much?
Uh-huh.
We're definitely above that number.
Yeah.
And by a couple $1,000s. So that is definitely something to think about, is maybe if we do even go out for bid again, I mean, like I said, I'm really enjoying these guys. They're very attentive. But if we do go out for bid, almost asking maybe for that, can you give us a season cost? Because this by storm thing is so unpredictable.
It
and
is.
Crushing our
The-
spirits.
But will people do season?
The tuxedo.
Yeah, their
Yeah, I
tuxedo
think
is going to rate.
The other piece to that puzzle that we talked about is because we have been talking about the potential of using that side by side for a sander to alleviate it. Because we spent so far over $11,000 on sanding from the invoices we looked at last night. So I don't know how feasible and how realistic it would be for us to handle all the sanding with the side by side, but if there was a cost benefit to being able to supplement some of it, then, we got some things to look at. We're not ready to make a decision on that, but
And I think after you talked to them, there was a change in how frequently they were doing some of that stuff. So
He definitely tightened that up. One time I was out there doing some snow blowing and he pulled up and he says, he goes, I don't think we need to sand. You agree? And I said, yeah, I agree. So he ended up not sanding. So he's definitely being more attentive to it. His guys are being more attentive to it. We're trying to keep that down. At the same time, you're always feeling like I'm on the edge of making a bad decision. Like
Right.
if I say no, and then somebody comes walking up that hill from the lower parking lot and they go down, I'm going to feel bad, number one. Number two, Primex is going to be paying some money, and we don't want that
And I
either.
think that that's a situation where if we were able to just do spot areas on our own here
Yeah.
and there as needed or something.
right.
Not to, I don't know if it is feasible to take on our whole
it
lot
very
on our
well
own.
might not.
It's just more,
either.
yeah, just more like.
It's for two reasons. One, I don't know where that sand is coming from. Like, we're going to have a large pile of sand salt mix
Yep.
on our property, I would think. I mean, people say go across the yard, but I'm not sure, number one, that they'll allow that. And number two, that's going to cost you too. So there's a cost associated with that. So the second thing though is time. There's
Yeah.
only two of us. And
No.
I'm saying us because I'm one of the two right now. But
Oh,
with our new daytime custodian, he very well might next winter. We haven't used him yet just because we haven't had a problem, but he might say, yeah, I'm more than happy to step up into that category. And then John was able to hit a couple, he's our night custodian. He was able to help out a couple of times as well. So we might have a slightly better, more organized team next winter for this, but at the same time, it took me well over 2 hours to snow blow and shovel and salt every one of the
Which,
entry doors and
Yeah.
everything else. So
That's
you add to
exactly
that.
what
Did we-
So, yeah.
we were thinking that it might not be feasible for exactly those reasons, so
Yeah.
we're not.
So I just want to make sure you're thinking about those. It sounds like you
Yeah.
already are. Thank you.
Did you want to talk about?
You had left samples.
I did.
I didn't know where they came from.
I think that was Lowe's or Home Depot. I don't remember
Me and
one
my
or the other.
household also does a lot of work in the siding field, so I have another option here.
Awesome.
We thought this product might be a little bit overkill and expensive for the outbuildings, just
It was an
based on.
example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just based on the thickness, so we have
Yeah.
some other options. But as we talked about, I think we want to kind of assess pavement before we decide to go full ahead.
I don't disagree with that assessment. I guess what I'm worried about is if you do have a custom order, it takes time to get it in. So even with the water lead to, for example, we're thinking of doing it over April break if you, as a facility committee, say yes, because obviously, once again, that's coming out of that capital fund. So I was going to bring that suggestion to our next meeting. But if we want to do that, then we're going to be leaving it undone if we don't have the siding ordered and in. So once again, that's all I'm trying to say is we don't have to do it, but it's a time period when we think we could get some of it done.
where are we thinking, what are we thinking of using?
I brought Certainty as well,
Certainty.
and this one is Georgia Pacific.
For the siding?
2 different brands.
Well,
Does applicators carry them?
Probably.
Yeah, if they carry them, they would be in stock. It would depend on the color.
Well, the colors, that's right. All the places have colors, but they're usually the plain ones like whites,
Yeah.
tans, clays.
Yeah.
What do you think of red?
They want
Yeah,
to do something
yeah.
more
Yeah.
closely matches the building.
actually, we could probably pass it around because everybody else should weigh in on the colors too. The Hampton red and the
So I'm not a color expert, but one thing that my wife has told me so many times, it sticks with me, is that sometimes when you try and go too same, you actually, if it's off a little bit, it really clashes. And she said oftentimes it's better to go with something different. So I just wanted to also suggest, do we necessarily want to try and go brickish? Or do we want to try and go with something that complements brickish? Whatever you do, please don't do white. That's all I ask.
No, I would say that we already have the brick red and the clay on the pump building,
Yep.
the sugar shack, and the water lean-to in the
Yep.
dugouts.
Yep.
So,
Just continue.
does that, well, if, and it obviously depends on what everybody else wants to do.
I'd like to continue.
Yeah, so I'm good with that.
I would think that applicators would have red in. I think that's pretty common.
Yeah.
If that's what you're thinking, is that what you're thinking, like looking it up?
Yeah, there's a couple,
That's one of
there's,
Yeah.
there's one that's more, the one in the Certainty is a little bit more brickish red. And you can feel the thickness in them, too. What is the difference of 4 thousandths in
So are
thickness?
we
whatever.
ordering these and then our maintenance people put them up?
We're gonna take care of this internally. It's not hard to put up siding. The biggest challenge we'll have is some sort of scaffolding system, but we can use ladders and platforms, or maybe even some local people would donate some scaffolding for a week.
I don't know, either your husband or Kevin would have to order if they do applicators or Harveys, because I think you have to have
Contractors only.
a contractor.
Sometimes you have to count.
Yeah,
Well, they also get a better rate, so I would love it if somebody with a contractor's license could do it, so that we can hopefully get the best rate.
it's just, I don't even know if they'll let you, because they'll do delivery and everything.
Did you want to look at this at all?
I've read, whatever you want.
I have a 24-foot pick that if you ever needed to borrow. So it's like a 24-foot plank.
Yeah.
It's,
That's awesome.
I'll figure out how to get it here, but if you ever need to borrow that, you're welcome to it.
I think it'll depend. If we're just doing the water lean-to, I don't need much. In fact, we probably could just use a ladder there because
Yeah.
we're not going up that high. But if we're doing all the buildings, we're definitely gonna need, at some point, we're gonna definitely need to get up higher. The only other thing I would suggest with the water lean-to is to really seriously consider metal roofing. I think any of the outbuildings we do from this point forward, we should really think metal roofing because it's a one and done forever, but the same thing there. If you want anything other than the standard color they stock, you gotta order it well in advance.
Yeah.
And we'd also wanna not have seams halfway through, so we definitely wanna make sure we get the right lengths. So once again, custom orders is most likely the case, but I'm just telling you, metal roofing, you're not gonna have to think about ever roofing it again in any of our lifetimes.
It's true, but metal roofing is exponentially more expensive
It
than it
depends,
was.
if it's standard
Yeah,
seam,
it's-
it
it's
is.
a
It
jerk off,
depends
I'm
on
just throwing
which,
it out
it depends on which type.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there,
Yeah.
because I've been using it on some of the jobs I've done in my own personal life, and it looks good, and you just know you're never worrying about it again, so. And you don't have ice buildups, you don't have ice dams, you don't have all that kind of stuff.
So the little kids running by that well house and all.
You can put the little cleats on it.
Yeah, you're right, it stops, it can stop, yeah.
But once again, I'm just throwing that out
Yeah.
there to think about, because we're gonna have to re-roof that. It's not just siding on that
Oh,
building,
that
it's roof.
definitely, they're
Yeah.
melting off.
We also didn't talk about the, remember the dumpster?
Oh, yes.
I know it was in our packet, the dumpster was another.
We had,
one.
yes, so we had, we meant to talk about the dumpster last night, but we didn't, and I had said,
We're now locking it, if that.
no, oh, no,
No,
sorry, the
the
closed, the
donation
green
closed.
closed
Oh,
bin.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Our actual dumpsters, we were having people dumping, so we're now closing and locking them at night.
Good. Yeah, it's too bad people were doing that. So this closed bin you're talking about, I initially liked the idea, and then when I was reading the minutes, I saw that, there was a student from Co-Brown who was gonna do a
Yes.
winter close thing.
Yes,
I said, well, geez, we'd have to wait until that was done, because we wouldn't wanna
yes.
take away from her. And then I started thinking about when I drive by the Isinglass on the weekend, and any other one of these donation bins you go to, and there's always
Junk,
people who just
throw their stuff
throw their
and-
stuff there,
Yes.
and
So-
This one, just so you know, is different. So they actually have a sensor in it, number one, that tells them when it's getting full, so that and that's part of the contract, they have to empty it before it's full. Secondly, we'd probably put it right next to our existing dumpsters, that's probably the location we'd put it. which would mean that hopefully nobody is dumping stuff there. It's
They
under
will.
video, well, it's under video surveillance. I mean, that's part of what we're gonna be starting to do now is if we see trash being left on the ground or in our dumpsters, we're gonna go back and look at our video footage and see if we can pick up who it is. We're also getting a sign that we're gonna mount to the dumpster that says, you're under video surveillance. We're gonna do everything we can to discourage this dumping thing. So that wasn't as big of a concern to me, but I also appreciate if you don't wanna do it. This was simply a simple idea for maybe making $1,000 to $2,000 a year that we could apply towards, student activities or just, Earth Day, buying more plants, whatever. It's not a huge, this is not a major thing. It was a simple thing. I just threw it out there for the facilities committee to consider. And then you guys said, put it into the board package.
Yeah, and I thought about it in both ways now, and I get what anybody else who wants to weigh in on.
I researched it, and from what I found out, it was 7 cents a pound. The dumpsters hold 600 pounds, that's $42. So if your dumpster is changed once a month, let's just say it is, it might be more often in the beginning than just once, you're gonna get $500. And I know we have cameras out there, but I have seen what happens, even if it's not full, people just take boxes, and sometimes they don't even follow the directions because they see it's a donation thing, they start putting books, boxes of books, and it will I predict it would increase our cost for waste for our dumpsters, plus the manpower to move the stuff, plus, in my opinion, it takes away from giving to nonprofits rather than having people make money. And for what, $500 a year? I'd rather give the coats to people who need them. Anyway, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I was like, I don't know. I didn't like the idea of it going to like a for-profit place, but that's just. And if the school needs assistance with bringing the stuff to nonprofits, I'd be willing to volunteer to
I
help.
would too.
I honestly don't think that's an issue.
Okay.
We were simply looking at this through the lens of a potential small fundraiser that had no cost to us that it looked
Yeah.
like.
No, understandable.
I can't attest 100% to what the trash situation would be, but we're not gonna worry about it. It's not happening.
I do have one other question related to facilities. We did do the survey. I think a lot of progress has been made, and we've had some different staff since it was done. I wonder if it makes sense to do it again. I don't know if.
Well, we just did our culture and climate one, and
Yeah.
the facilities responses were quite positive.
Okay.
But we can do another one if you want. It's up
It
to
would
you.
just be interesting to compare. I think the data at this point is a little bit outdated. So I don't think it's a bad idea to do it. even if
Yeah,
it's
that would
next
be
year. I
nice
think
to
it would be
see the
good to compare.
difference, because
You
we
got
all probably can
How
sense
long do you
there's a
want it to run
difference.
for?
How long did the last one run?
Did we do it for, it was either 1 or 2 weeks, I can't
It was a
remember.
couple of weeks, but
Are you thinking now or a couple months from
I
now?
think
Or
even a couple of months from now, towards the end of the year, would
Let's
be
say the end
fine.
of the school
Yeah.
year.
end of
Oh, okay.
end of the school year?
So, well, we're doing the culture and climate survey at the end of May into June.
Right.
Do we want to do them at the same time? Can they overlap?
Why don't we do the facilities at the end of the year? And
So
then,
like-
because we're gonna do ours,
Right, yeah.
like probably end of May, because we need it for our workshop, right?
After culture, climate, culture.
Or what do we
right
call it,
afterwards.
our retreat?
Board retreat.
A retreat.
It's a retreat to the library.
When I first got on the board, I'm like, ooh, this sounds
We're
good.
gonna have a retreat.
Yeah,
Guess
yeah.
what used to retreat is the library.
I thought we were gonna be hanging out by a pond or something.
If you want, I know a couple places. You can actually do metalworking at one of them. They have a forge, and you can forge some steel while you're there.
Okay, so next, food service committee, we would probably want to meet like to the end of the year, right? If we
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Sure.
You do? Okay, let me set something up.
I'm not yet. I think we'd probably meet like in June, so I don't think we need to meet then. All right, education committee, you did have a meeting, right, Katrina?
Yes, we had a meeting last night. Luckily, I was able to go. There's a new secretary at the school, so a couple of us from board members were included on the initial email. They sent an email late yesterday. They realized it, so I was able to go. We saw a Strafford student for absentee concerns. And we also interviewed a math teacher that we approved. So really, it was a really great candidate, like a really good one. And so hoping that they accept. So that would be a good addition to the team there. So There's several openings or going to be more anticipated openings, so I assume we'll have quite a few meetings coming up.
And that applicant will be replacing someone who's retiring?
I believe so. They didn't specifically say that, but Mr. Daigle is taking over the dean position of mathematics. I believe Mr. Damon, I would assume, is retiring.
I think
My
I think we
favorite,
probably all had.
my favorite
math.
math teacher.
He
Yeah.
was funny, right?
Oh,
I know,
100%.
Elijah
Gave me
used to
such a hard time.
or
I
Isaiah.
loved it. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice because when we have our dean's meetings, I get to see him and tell him how much I appreciate him. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So, yep, that's it for education.
All right, wellness committee, that's in April. What is it, April, do you know when it is? April? Is it like the-
Second.
I think we're going to be working on that survey we're supposed to be sending home for the wellness committee. You know, we do it once a year. I don't know if I wasn't involved last year, so I don't know if it's a, if it's just a standard survey that's sent home, or if we actually create questions. Is there anything?
I don't remember. I assume there must be something already made from last year. Probably can utilize the same one.
Wednesday, the 23rd at 3:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you. And transportation committee?
You got it.
Yeah, I noticed that buses today, like there was a change. One bus was like a half an hour late, another bus was early.
Yeah,
Is there
I remember an email that came
Yeah.
out saying the bus was, something was up.
Is there, is it like drivers or?
I don't know.
Yeah, usually if a driver has to take off like an afternoon route, say they have an appointment or a commitment. And another bus will, I assume, pick up their kids, be one of the first to leave. They drop off theirs and they come back and they get another round of kids to go deliver them, so.
Natalie's probably typing a text right
Yeah,
now.
All right, athletic committee, as I said, went through a lot, just hoping to get a baseball coach because the baseball coach they had for a couple of years retired basically from coaching. And happy to have some applicants that were good. And also trying to make sure we have enough kids interested to form a team.
I know the
So-
baseball numbers have been a struggle, right?
Yeah, so, but they do have enough this year, and then they have a lot of softball girls, so I think that should be fine. What is she saying?
Katrina is correct, and yes, I'm typing. Thanks, Natalie.
Anyway, and both the baseball and softball, I think, begin on Monday. So, and the first game, I think, is April 7th. Are you involved in softball? You did do softball this year?
So just a little facilities update that goes along with baseball and softball. Steve Rowell's coming back to help prep the fields again. He's working with Greg right now. We'll have to put an order in for some more infield dirt like we did last year, but he says he thinks it'll be a lot less than last year. But he is going to work with Greg to figure that all out and do the best we can to make sure we're ready for tryouts and whatever we can be ready for. Obviously, it's weather dependent, so. But he is coming back. So community member volunteers, that's what
Yeah,
we've got.
make sure you tell them we say thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, exactly, yes, thank you. Alrighty, New Hampshire, well, we already talked about the delegate, we can go, we have time to rethink that. The dam committee, we don't have anything.
I'll just give one quick update. I did drive that document over to the state, met with Emily in person.
That was great.
And I'm glad I did because I had it double-sided. It needed to be single-sided, so we printed off a single-sided version of it. I re-signed everything, but we made the deadline as we were supposed to, and it's working its way through the process. We should hear back, I would think, relatively soon. She's hoping for an April Board of Ed meeting. Did I say it right? No, not Board of Ed, sorry. Governor's Council.
Yes,
Executive Council.
executive council, good. So what was the date she's hoping for?
Sometime in April, one of their
In
April
April, so
meetings.
not
Yeah.
May.
She
Ooh.
said it might still be May, but she's
Okay.
hoping for an April meeting. It just, depends how
That's
long it
great.
takes to get through the whole system, so.
Good. Thank you for driving there. to do
Well,
that.
it's in Concord.
Yeah.
I have to go home, so, yeah.
Okay. Set future board meetings. I think we have everything here. Co-Brown, I would imagine, is that gonna be the May 14th? Probably.
Yeah.
Look, it usually is around that one.
I have it, I think, in the regular calendar.
So when we talk about next meeting, we're going to, Rob and I, we went through the evaluation and we talked about having like the reports from the deans and um, the student service director, so we're going to alternate months, having one month and then the next month. So for the April 9th meeting, we would like the deans here, but I would like for you to decide what information, because Rob wants to know, what information does the board want presented by the deans? So what information do you want? Like, do you want discipline reports? Do you want curriculum updates? What do you want to hear?
I want to know what's working well and what's not working well right now,
Okay.
and how we can support them. And I guess it's more with an eye on what next school year, like starting to plan now for what next school year would look like. Like our deans have gotten their feet wet. They've been here almost, they'll be here for a whole school year. And like, yeah, I guess just kind of, that's where I'd like, just where are they at? How are things working? Where do they see maybe a need for improvement? Maybe it's operational, procedural, whatever it may be. And then obviously, might be something that we just don't have yet, but like, where are our students academically? Like, test scores, or and maybe how else are we measuring them in between test scores, and what does that look like? So
Good points. Good. Rob, you have that. Natalie's listening. Natalie's writing it down.
But also, just so you know, you had sent an email a while back saying, but no, I'm just letting you know, it dropped off my radar. I got back on it today, and Natalie can do it too, but I said I wanted to take a first stab at it just so I learned the system a little bit better. So I was actually assembling that to a certain extent when Debbie came in for my evaluation. So
Yep.
Just letting you know, it's in the process and we should have that ready. I almost wonder at some point if we should, maybe it's part of our retreat to really dive into some of that data and really have a chance to digest it a little bit, because all you're going to get in that kind of a meeting is kind of a surface level.
absolutely, yeah.
But I do think it's important for us to really analyze not only the NWEA data that you had asked for, but also the SAS.
Yep.
Obviously, we haven't taken it yet, but I think everybody's fingers are crossed that this year's efforts are going to result in improved test scores as well. So.
Anything else?
So it definitely, I don't think would expect it to be ready for April, but kind of a longer term thing as far as now that we're two schools under one roof, how things are going to be set up to align. Like, I know there's some math curriculum alignment discussion going on, like, and how the elementary school is preparing the kids for middle school, and then further how the middle school is preparing students for Co-Brown. So I kind of like I said, I know we're not even through the first year yet, but how that all comes together, obviously in the longer term.
We did talk about that as one of the goals that we discussed, and Rob was talking about your plan for the summer.
I have a lot of plans for summer. Aligning curriculum.
Yes,
Yeah. So guys, so one of the big things, so we have been talking about what you just said, right? We're really trying to say, in particular, like how can fourth grade and fifth grade work really tight together so that transition seems a lot less wrought with problems than it did this year, right? So how do we smooth that out? Staff's behind that initiative, administration's obviously behind that initiative, so that's underway. Curricular-wise, I know there's a real need for us to say, okay, let's look at math K through 8. Where are they starting? Where are they ending? And what are each of those key benchmarks along the way? I think that's already kind of a known thing by our staff, but it needs to find its way into a written document that then can be on our website that's accessible to everybody. So a parent saying, I've got a second grader, they're going into third grade, I want to know if my kid's where they're supposed to be. They can open this up, and let's say second grade is all about, adding, subtracting, multiple place settings, things of that nature, multiple, decimal places or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, no, my kid can do that. Okay, great. Next year, we're going to be jumping into multiplication. Oh, great. I think my kid's ready for that. And this summer, I know I can do some prep work to help my kid start that process. So maybe they start off on the right foot. So once again, I think that's part of what we want to do, is to have that kind of almost like parental pacing guide, if you will.
Yep.
With the key checkpoints and key steps along the way, so that big picture is better understood. And it's not just in math. It's a little more complicated in the other subjects. They're not quite as linear, but at the same point, I think it's very doable.
Right.
And so that's one of the things I know I want us to be working on. And I think there's so many places out there that have already done it that I don't think this is reinventing a wheel as much as pulling resources putting our own spin on it, making sure our own staff signs off on it,
Right.
so.
I think it's important that we have it posted, even, along with that, the scope and sequence of skills that are being taught, but then also the materials, like, we're using math and focus, or we're going to be using this or that, because most parents don't even know.
Aligning curriculums, assessments, resources, all that stuff needs to be aligned with that pacing guide so the parents know, everybody else knows. And I would love there to be a resource list that's accessible to parents at home, whether it's websites that they could utilize for math practice or reading practice. Maybe it's go to the library. This book series is excellent for second graders. Things of that nature, because I think a lot of times, like I struggle with this sometimes. I'm not a kindergarten expert, a first grade expert. So for the last couple of years, my daughter, she's now in first, but what's appropriate right now? Like, what should I be doing right now with her? So we struggle with that. And I think that if we can somehow provide parents with that kind of toolbox, that would be very helpful. And obviously I've got the experts right here in this building. We just need to tap them.
Yeah, and the other thing as a parent is more, like, I know how to get to the answer that my child needs on a piece of paper, but I want to be speaking the same language
Right.
and supporting them in the same way that the teachers are. And so, yeah, and it hasn't been that much of a struggle, but just being able to, like, I've never specifically taught somebody how to read, right? So sometimes I'm like, I wish I could just be a fly on the wall when they're being taught how to read. Like, I've never done that, right? I mean, other people have, but I know how to read, but I don't know how to teach somebody how to read. And it's, you know what I mean? And so, I mean, just how do I support my child the same way they're being supported at
And to be
school?
clear, it's not something that was taught to most educators in college.
Right.
We weren't taught how to teach people how to read. There are now entire programs. It's a whole letters initiative that we're
Exactly,
underway
yeah.
with. The whole program is
Yeah.
how do educators teach kids to read at all levels, regardless of where they're at. And that's a huge initiative that we joined forces with. And I know Natalie's becoming an expert with it. I actually just saw her in a training because it's an elementary, I think it's where the major focus is. So Natalie's making herself an expert at it. Many of our teachers are already becoming experts at it. And we just now have to figure out that method to make sure that our new people that are coming on board get that same resource, because that resource is drying up as a state-funded activity. Is now going to become incumbent upon us to continue that. But once again, that whole program is how do teachers teach kids to read? And from that, is there a way for us to piece together a parent guide? What can you be doing at home? What are maybe some good activities you can do that would support that effort at work, school?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so,
also,
I'm sorry.
one other thing, sorry. I also think, and I've had some conversations with folks about this, is that we have our parent-teacher conferences really early in the school year. And I think trying to understand if there's other opportunities or what those are to kind of check in with your kids about the progress. We get report cards, but there's not that face-to-face meeting or discussion that happens, the narrative that goes with it. So I'd be curious what the administration thinks about the best approach to kind of, I know teachers are available, I'm not saying they're not, but I just think the conferences happen so early and it's just after that first report card that you don't really have those opportunities for the remainder of the year.
So you're saying, what we do, I think, is right in the middle of the trimester, right? When it's the midterm for the first trimester, we have a parent conference. So are you saying to have that again in the second trimester?
I would just be curious what their take is, whether it makes sense to move it more mid-year or if it would be better to have two opportunities.
I know, it was interesting because we had moved it up, right? That was the feedback that we had gotten a couple of years ago. That's why it's at the end of October now by Halloween, because it used to be more in like late November, mid-November or something.
It was when we changed from quarters to trimesters, because the trimester is very long. It's like 60 days, right? So we have our 60-day period, and so it's 30 days is for the midpoint. So that's, before it used to be at the quarter. So
I mean, their
it
report
was,
cards are great and there is some written explanation, but I just think a lot of times people don't understand if there are opportunities for the parents to help the kids out and see that growth, they don't really have that opportunity to discuss it throughout the year because it's an early time that we have the conferences.
I love the concept of 2 parent-teacher conferences a year, one at
I
that
think
kind
it
of earlier and one later, but that's going to be back to you.
Exactly.
You got to get negotiated, because
Right.
that's, right now, we're controlled by contract. Those
Yeah.
are things that have to be
You're
in
right.
calendars of certain places. So But once again, it's a great year to be thinking that, and who
Yeah.
knows, maybe the staff would be excited about that idea. It might be an easy lift, I just don't know.
What do other schools do? Do other schools do them as early as we do, or are they kind of spread out?
So a lot of schools do a couple of days, but they do them in the evenings. So they'll do something after school ends to like mid-evening, and then another night they do from a little bit later to later in the evenings. So I've seen a lot of evening type activities.
I meant in the
He's asking
year.
How free, is it done?
It's usually done about where we do ours,
It is.
but
Okay.
what a lot of school districts do is they then have other types of activities in the later winter, early spring timeframe that are opportunities for parents to reconnect with the school and reconnect with the students and the teachers. So once again, maybe like what I'm thinking is like, I know in my last district, we had a night in the, I think it was late winter, early spring, where they could come in and they could actually be part of an open house where everything was put out, like there was tons of student workout, the staff was all there, and parents could connect with the staff and talk about projects that their kids had done. It was really neat, and the students did it up big too, like they had, you know, people singing and playing instruments and performing things on the stage, and they had food in the cafeteria. It was kind of a big shindig.
Yep.
Once again, that'd be another way to do it that would be able to connect. But once again, that was negotiated into their contracts that was an evening event. So
Yeah, I think, what do we have in our contract? Do we have 2 evening events, or do we have?
I'd have to go back and read it to be sure. I don't want to misspeak right now.
Okay. All right, so I think we have a lot of information we're asking them to come to report to us about. Anything else?
Yeah, it isn't all, I don't think we're all asking for it all at
Yeah,
once.
yeah, no, this is,
Natalie, don't worry.
my
Yeah, it's
request
just
was
more
not
like
expected on April.
What I heard you guys talking about was that you want to see them more frequently. And so one of the things I was doing earlier was kind of sketching out what months made a lot of sense. And I think April makes a lot of sense because it's after the budget, it's after you've organized. I think you can really say April, May, and June if you wanted to, but I think if, you know, probably not every month, so maybe every other, so
and
April, June.
And then August.
Yeah,
Because we
and
want to,
October.
I mean, the end of
Those
the
are the
year,
easy ones.
the end of the school year, we want to hear like the end of the school year report. And then August, like what are their plans for the new year? So-
And then October is also a month that's not too heavily laden
Right.
with stuff, and then February is a month that's not too heavily laden.
Right.
I don't think you're gonna be able to pull anything off in November, December, January, just because it's budget every time we move.
And there should be, I think
so.
we usually only have 1 meeting in November, 1 meeting in December.
Well, you have the Co-Brown meeting and then a district meeting, and then December is only one, yeah.
Okay, so we'll start with there. I think that's good information. And then we can talk more at the next meeting of some of the things that we'd like Melissa to include in her report. I think I had a sample special ed report I sent you. Did I ever send that to you?
I feel like I remember something from you a while
I'll look
back,
at
and
it.
I probably gave it to
Just,
Melissa.
it was just like the format,
Yeah.
SAU 44, just the report we used to receive.
Just one point of clarification with that, when would you like her, just so she can start to plan the date? So we have, obviously, April 23rd would be the next opportunity. If you don't want it that soon, we can't do May 14th because that's CBNA and that'd be weird. But May 28th would be the next day after that. So April 23rd or May 28th would be the 2 options.
Do we have anything else coming up in April that, like any other presentations or anything?
Just the ones for April 9th for the deans.
Okay, so there's nothing else? Do you want to just
that
do
I'm
them?
aware of.
April
And then whatever
23rd is
audit
not,
is done. But
What was that?
This year.
no, April 23rd is not vacation.
It's the Wednesday before our vacation
Okay.
week, yeah.
Yeah, all right, maybe we should do with the 23rd then,
April 23rd.
yeah.
and if something else comes up, we could always.
Yeah, we could
move it
always,
back.
we could always move it to May 28th. if-
I just hate to wait that long because I feel like you all have very pertinent, I
Yeah.
want to understand better what we're spending all of our money on, and Melissa understands that, and she really is looking forward to addressing that. I think part of the approach that we talked about even this morning was really almost kind of building pathways so that you can kind of understand. So a kid that's internal, what does that look like for them? A student that's going to Co-Brown, what does it look like for them? A student that's going to day programs, students that are going to residential programs. So you kind of get that whole perspective, because part of the residential, or not residential, but the day programs, we'd be talking about transportation, we'd be talking about tuition, we'd be talking about services that have to go to those facilities. So you'd get a really big picture of all those kind of cost ideas without using anything actual, like we just make up scenarios. So we could talk about them openly in public and everybody can watch it, Whereas if we were the other way, we'd be probably worrying about, okay, wait, we need to go into non-public to talk about this. So I think we got a good strategy for getting you guys what you need. And then of course, that'll be the first time you'll give us feedback and we'll enhance for the second time. So.
Alrighty. Other?
Yes, so I was just curious, do we have to does the school board need to approve, like, moving the last school day for this school calendar, or does he just adjust it for?
Snow days.
It should
They're in the
be
calendar.
adjusted for snow days, and we don't really know yet. We always have another
Oh,
Sunday.
stop it.
They
We're not gonna
April
do that.
snowstorm is coming.
They can, they
It's coming.
do. I hate to
Do you
say
remember
it, but it happens.
No, how many days currently do we need to have? Like, this is,
Yeah.
I've
I
had
think
people
three.
ask
I think
me,
three. I think
what's
we're-
this last day of
I
school?
think we're
And I'm
at,
like,
that Wednesday and that last week before the 19th. I think the 19th is Friday, the 17th, I think we're at the 16th, I believe, which is not that late. I mean, we've gone to the 23rd.
Oh, no, we're in the 20s.
Oh, yeah,
are
no,
we? Yeah,
we
we're in the
are,
20s.
we're
Yeah.
like.
Oh, so
Yeah.
that's the
really-
following year.
Yeah, we're
Hold on a
really
second.
far out there.
I'll get that for you.
Yeah, like, I'm worried we're pushed into the following week,
We-
which is when like people's summer camps start.
We're the last week. We're definitely in the last week.
But
yes.
we're on the Wednesday, I think.
So
No.
June, right now, we're June 25th, so there's only the 26th, 27th, and 30th left
Okay,
to extend the school year further.
okay, so we have, so are we on, would be the Wednesday?
Actually, it might be the 24th is the last day for students, and the 25th is the last day. I'd have to go back and look to be sure.
Is the 24th a Wednesday?
24th is a Tuesday, 25th is a
Oh, I
Wednesday.
thought we
Yeah,
were,
I thought we were
I-
at the Tuesday.
That's why I said, I
Okay, I
think
thought we
I
were
think it's
on
3 days, I'm
Wednesday.
pretty sure, so I
Okay.
think we're at Tuesday.
okay,
The
that's-
teachers are here on Wednesday, that's probably why in my head, the last day is
Okay.
Wednesday,
Okay.
but we only have a couple days left,
Not
so
in
if April
July
gets
yet,
busy,
so
we
that's
can't
good.
go into July.
I know. Okay, all right, anything else? Other?
Just one other thing, so oftentimes it's still when and I've heard this complaint from other people too, when I email a teacher or anybody at the SAU, it almost always goes to the junk box, the junk email. So like I was like reaching out to my children's teachers, which I have communicated with before
Yeah.
via email about a field trip and I never heard back. So then I tried to email them. I sent a follow-up email and I'm like, you know what, they would have emailed me back. I know they would have.
Yeah.
So I sent a test email to my school account from my personal and went to my junk box. So then I emailed them, which I don't like to do, from my school email so they would actually see it. So I don't know if, and I had it.
Is this bar metaphor? Because I used to have to do the same thing with
Yeah,
her email.
well, it was hers
I've had
and another
yes,
one.
though.
Yeah,
If
and
you
I
go
got,
through Alma, it works. If you do the correspondence
Okay.
through there, it seems to go through.
I
But if
didn't
you do
think
it
of that.
through email-
Yeah, so I don't know if there's a way to like reduce the sensitivity on our emails as far as what goes to the junk, or if there's a way to take all the parent email addresses that are in Alma and make them like approved, so they don't, approved contacts. I don't know. It's just, I just worry that parents email people maybe are worried they're not getting they're
Yes.
frustrated. I've just had it happen to me multiple times, so I can only imagine how many times it's
I
happened to other
had,
people.
it happened to me with one teacher in fourth grade multiple times, and so I ended up like going to my school board email to see, will this go through to her? And using that, which I didn't want to do,
Right.
but I couldn't communicate. So,
Yeah, I've written it down. I'll
Yep.
talk to Jay about it. I'm already imagining I'm gonna get told it's the antiquity of our system that's probably a problem right now. I know that he replaced the backbone of the server, but he also said that we have other things, and I don't remember the technical names of them, but there's other components that we can't touch right now because it could potentially put us in a
Right.
bad situation. So he said, we're nursing along till summertime for several components that we're hoping to replace. But I know the server got replaced because it failed. We didn't have a choice. But the other stuff that we've already talked about, it's already in the budget, it's things that we've mentioned. I know he said several of those things are causing lots of problems. He actually sent a message out to everybody recently about Wi-Fi and just how unstable it is and how not strong and all that kind of stuff. And we've experienced it ourselves where we're frustrated by it. So
On a better note, the
Yes.
cell phone tower is working.
is it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also.
Hey, look at bars.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah. It was
Hey.
just today.
So now you don't have to send somebody up to like the post office.
Or maybe, and I don't know if it works every time, maybe we need to test it, but if it went in the newsletter, I do think if you go through Alma and send a message that way,
Yeah,
it does get.
yes, it would. I
Maybe
didn't
just
think,
highlighting that.
I didn't think of that, so
Yeah, I
I'll just do that from now on.
So, also Fidium, is it Fidium? That's coming to town. I think it's already in parts of town. A wireless, instead of
Fiber.
I know I heard somebody talk about it recently. I'm sure Jay's aware of it. But
Well, I don't know if that's better than what we have. If you're saying that our,
Oh, I don't think it's breeze line. I think our problem is our internal components are
Yeah.
near death.
So, but
Well,
that's
we've all had
that's happening
All
over
the
the
kicked off
summer.
Wi-Fi before here.
It's
Planned.
all of the stuff was
Fine.
planned for summer, but then the network dropped, so we had to fix that.
Gotcha.
But other things could fail before summer. And my biggest fear is always that we're gonna lose something important during testing. So the SAS, right, we're hoping for good SAS results this year. Well, that is gonna be reliant upon a computer system not failing us.
Yep.
So we are stressed a little bit about that, but this summer, we should see all the nearly dead components, go away and new
good,
stuff put in its place and hopefully be in a much better place for next year.
great. All right, anything else?
We have no
Public comments again, and there's no one here. Okay. All righty, so do you have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I will second.
And Eric?
Yes.
Jess, Katrina?
Yes.
Kyle, and Debbie, yes.
9:09.
Not too bad.
That's
All right,
right.
make sure we shut.
Don't you guys remember 11:30?
I do,
I,
unfortunately.
yeah.
That one's yours.
I signed everything I was supposed to.
Everything I think you said, yeah, pretty sure.